Folks, we are live. Welcome to the channel for everyone that is watching, everyone that has already tuned in. We are pretty much on time. We are here to break down the New Year's Eve RIZIN show. There is another name, all in Japanese, which I do not speak. So you're going to have to deal with me just calling it the New Year's Eve RIZIN show 2025. But we have 15 fights on this card, some of which have changed as recent as today. So thankfully, we've done our due diligence. I'm here to do my best part, but we know that Rotobrady's got his stuff all figured out. He's the one that's the RIZIN guy in this chat here. So or in this conversation here. So why don't you tell everybody kind of your thoughts on this card? And there you go. He's got his RIZIN t-shirt on even. I'm shamelessly repping my CloudWeb merch. So, but why don't you tell everybody kind of like your thoughts on the card, and then just kind of what makes this card so special for you, because it is your favorite card of the year, you said.
Yeah, dude. When I put out that poll like a month or so ago and asked like a bunch of different people in this space, what is your favorite promotion to watch from an entertainment standpoint? Overwhelmingly, outside of the UFC, it was RIZIN that people were answering. RIZIN is such a throwback and something that there's a reason that it's successful when a lot of other promotions are, continuously having struggles that you hear about in the news. RIZIN goes back to something that we all remember as MMA fans. These rules that they subscribe to, the fact that it's in Japan, the fact that it's a promotion that still sticks primarily with like a ton of Japanese talent that came up from Deep and Pancrase and all that stuff. The freak show fights, because they still do those. They still have those, at least at heavyweight, because they got Ken Edipolo, Tsuyoshi Sudario, like former sumo guys. Things I love about this promotion that are very unique as opposed to all the other promotions in the world. Even one has some of those similar qualities, and RIZIN really out. And from a business perspective, there's a reason that people are coming over from RIZIN to the UFC more prepared for the UFC than they are for other promotions. And from a New Year's Eve standpoint, man, I've got a lot of nostalgia attached to New Year's Eve MMA cards in Japan. Like Josh Barnett doing Japanese pro wrestling matches over there at like 3 a.m. on Access TV fights and stuff. That's my favorite. Like I've never been a New Year's Eve guy, but when it comes to mixed martial arts in Japan, Happy New Year to everybody. It should be a fun one. I love the product that RIZIN puts on, and it's worth the effect that it has on my sleep calendar.
Yeah, dude, I agree, because if RIZIN had a product as consistent throughout the year as like the UFC, there's a real chance that this is that's what I cover instead, because I do really enjoy the product. The problem is, if you're trying to make a content calendar around it, the events aren't exactly as frequent as you'd like. So there is that. And also, to get the American audience, or like at least the English speaking audience, it's harder, right? The time zone, all that stuff, but also the fact that most of the people that are consuming my content sleep a similar schedule to me, not a Japanese schedule.
It's hard to even if you're a big MMA fan, it's hard because so many of these guys, it is really hard for a lot of people to eventually learn the difference between Hiromasa Ugikoba and Yuki Motoya. There's, and I don't mean this in any other way other than the Asian languages are as far away from English as they can be. So naturally, for English-speaking MMA fans, learning those names is a lot tougher. It's the same as trying to become a fan of KSW and Octagon, and you're trying to tell the difference between 8 different Igor Prokryaks. It's a learning curve to get it and to see the different feeder promotions that produce a lot of these fighters and try to get a feel for kind of the nuances that affect them, because it's all different. And then you got guys like Danny Sabatello and that are coming in from America. And it's a whole trying to measure that. This is a promotion that has done successful cross-promotional events. Another thing I love about RIZIN. So it's a tough learning curve to see, like, again, like KSW and Octagon, fighters can be 45, 45-1 and 39 years old in this promotion, and you might still like them to win on the weekend.
Yep.
So there's definitely a learning curve, but I think one definitely well worth navigating.
Absolutely. As far as, like you said, as far as excitement goes, RIZIN does it better than just about anybody. And another thing that is really cool about this is, like, we're going to get to see these fights in an actual ring, which is different. So it's a little added flavor for the the American audience.
They'll do a ring, they'll do a cage, they'll do a pentagon. Like I swear, it's another thing I love about RIZIN and like stuff in Japan. It's just like, yeah, today they're gonna do it in a ring. It's like, and then it makes no sense for the sport of MMA. Yet it is something uniquely out of 2005 that we all learn for.
Yeah, and this card's in a ring, but like they've had cards on New Year's Eve in the past that weren't in a ring. They're in a cage. So it just kind of depends. But this one is in a ring from my understanding. So but yeah, let's talk to the chat a bit, and then we'll jump right into the first fight. We got Tyra season in here. Hope the holidays went good for you guys. So far, so good. We've still got the New Year's coming up, of course, but yeah, so far, so good. Been interesting here. The weather has been extremely warm, and normally it is very cold here. So it's weird. But yeah. We've got we are RIZIN podcast. Hey, there you go.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
That's awesome. I think I watched their stuff the other day. Something about this card. After I had made my picks for the original lineup for the card, I was like, all right, let's see what's going on with these guys. And there you go. So
talk about navigating the learning curve of it. We are RIZIN podcast. If anybody's interested in RIZIN, that's how you do a nose grind over the learning curve. And Tony Hawk Pro Skater too. Shout out to those fellas.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job at like kind of getting me familiar with some of the guys I wasn't, because I was familiar with some of these fighters, obviously, because I mean, like, I know who Jose Torres, and I know who Danny Sabatello is. And then I've already taped like before, like some of the guys like D'Souza, who like fought in the Bellator versus RIZIN cards they had in the past, stuff like that. But I definitely didn't know who some of the undercard guys are at all. So that was interesting. Or like if I had seen their fights, it was one of those things where it's like, I'm watching this for entertainment. I'm not breaking this down at all. This is just for funsies. So I just like in one ear out the other type of thing. So it was kind of interesting to do that. And I'd actually realized I'd seen a couple of these guys fight before and not even known that it was the same guy, which is pretty funny. So there's that. Dixon says, there's no MMA. Why did you get drunk for New Year's early? No, brother. No, I tell you what, this is good times. This is RIZIN. You're going to love it. The odds will come out. So you being a degenerate gambler, you can bet on these fights. They'll be out probably a couple days before the card, give or take 2-3 days, maybe. But yeah, so far, no odds, but it'll be interesting to see what we think and then find out what the odds think when those come out. We got Derek Izzy in the chat. I am a fan of Derek Izzy because Derek Izzy is a channel member. Shout out to the channel members. It's only $2.99 per month to be a channel member on my channel. Derek Izzy, thank you so much. Says any MMA is good with this much downtime between UFC cards. Doesn't care. He's gonna watch it. Heck yeah, dude. Same. I get that. Especially for this card, the New Year's Eve card is always good. So there we go. Appreciate you, Dixon. You're the man. Okay, so let's jump right in. I'm going to go on Tapology order for like what order I have, but my notes are all over the place in order because I've had to readjust. And this is one of the few times, usually I can just ramble it off my head, but I have to have my notes in front of me for this card because this is going to be a doozy. But this first fight, tell you what, I'll kick off my thoughts on the first one and then we can just kind of snake it up from there. But this first one is funny because it's between a couple of 16-year-olds and neither of them have a single fight in pro MMA. So we have, I'm gonna butcher the names. I'm gonna try it. So Yuri Suda and then Enzo Masami Yamazato, probably close-ish, right? So we're gonna go Enzo and Yuri. That's what we're gonna call them. Okay. So when I looked at these two, right? They grappled with each other before, is what I'm understanding, like in the gi, but this was like years ago and they're like 16 now. So I don't know how relevant that is. Not very, right? Like realistically, like me, like at jiu-jitsu practice, rolling with somebody that I rolled with like 2-3 months ago is not the same, let alone years ago. And I'm also not 16 where I'm developing rapidly. So that's about it, but no real MMA knowledge to go off of. So it's kind of a guess. I went with Yuri Suda as my pick for this one. And I don't even remember why, because because my notes for this fight are literally, they both are jiu-jitsu style fighters, and both of them are children. So what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, like, I mean, that's I mean, this is one of those that, like, when you're putting out picks, like, just in text form, it's like, dude, I don't, it'd be irresponsible of me to try. In this situation, like, Yuri, like, being the dude that I believe is like, I know Enzo is like Brazilian by nationality. I don't know where either of them were necessarily born, but like, dude, like, I think like all else in this is like got to be pretty even. We don't have a lot of information to go off of, and so like I would probably say just like Yuri straight up. Like if there was like, if that was a money line play that was viable, it'd be like I don't know what odds you're gonna find for these two 16-year-olds without a professional fight on the record, but I'd opt for Yuri. That makes the most sense here for two 16-year-olds.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like the We Are RIZIN podcast is saying, they faced off in gi, and Suda got the sub in like less than a minute. And apparently, so this is context for all the viewers that these two are high schoolers who were in a high school only tournament for RIZIN. Imagine, like, for us in like the States, like imagine you're in high school and you're like competing in a tournament with your like fellow high schoolers for an MMA promotion. This is the craziest darn thing. Like, things are wild over there in Japan, let me tell you. So there's that. But yeah, so let's see. Enzo seems to embody the old school BJJ for MMA, where you just flop to your back in order. Yeah.
That's a problem.
Bad habit. Yeah. I would say it's a horrible habit, to be honest. But, you know, different strokes for different folks. It works for some people, but I wouldn't do it. Yeah, we can move on. It sounds like that one, there isn't much to break down here. And this next one, when you look at the records, you would think there's not a lot to break down. But after I dove into it more, I thought that there was a decent amount here, right? And I'm going to butcher the name. So Ryusei Ashizawa takes on Ryoma Shishimoto. You can pronounce those better than I can, I'm sure, but I'll let you kick this one off. Do you have a solid thought on this one?
Yeah, like this is one of those RIZIN plays that's a philosophy play to me, where this 2 and 3 as an MMA fighter, throw that out of your head. You got to look at the kickboxing record and the kickboxing experience, and look at where they started him in his MMA career because of where he was at in his kickboxing pedigree. You know, like a loss, especially by knockout to Ryuya Fukuda, is nothing to be ashamed of in RIZIN. The kickboxing record is, you know, a lot of high-level fights in K1. Certainly, you know, certainly up and down results over the years. But this is a guy that is a very seasoned, experienced kickboxer. This is the kind of fight that in Japan, it is okay for a rising fighter to lose. It's not like in some other places where it is kind of getting a little bit more like boxing, where you're trying to more carefully cultivate your record. And there is no shame at all to Ryoma Shishimoto if he loses this fight to a very experienced kickboxer. And the thing is, it's Ashizawa that right now his record isn't that reflective of him as an MMA fighter. That's a learning curve that you have to navigate too. And he started off against some good MMA fighters, you know, in his post kickboxing career. So I would say, like, Ashizawa, if he does happen to be an underdog, then I think that that's like a fantastic value. Otherwise, I'd probably say like Ashizawa by decision. I do think Shishimoto is just more of like a, you know, he's a non-completely molded version of a guy that's going to be an MMA fighter. And right now they're at those different points in their MMA training. But I think Ashizawa can survive, or not. I think Shishimoto can survive, but I think that this is one that Ashizawa, I actually think will end up winning.
So it's interesting you say that because I came to the same conclusion. And when I looked at, like, before I dove into the fight, I looked at the record and I was like, okay, this is a setup fight for the 2-0 guy. And then I started like looking at like more into it. And I started looking at the fights and I was like, oh, this isn't a setup for the 2-0 guy. The 2-0 guy hasn't beaten anyone of any substance whatsoever. In fact, he's at the time of beating him, he didn't beat anybody with a win. But now they've gone on to have losing records as well. So they've continued to lose. Whereas I don't think this Ashizawa guy is just going to continue to lose. I think he was a product of coming over from kickboxing, which is what the We Are RIZIN podcast is mentioning down here. He's a product of coming over to kickboxing, and he didn't really have a full MMA game. And I don't know that he still does. I mean, the dude's got 5 like MMA fights. So it's, you know, it's not like he's coming over and he's good to go now. But he's clearly the better striker between the two, right? I mean, like, that's not crazy to say. And I don't imagine from what I've seen, he's showing a progression in his ability to not struggle with grappling. So I would say that Ashizawa is the side. And it's weird because, like, we don't have odds, right? But we have Tapology votes, and that's the closest thing we're going to get at this point. Only 28% of people are picking Ashizawa, and I'm like thinking that they probably just had the same conclusion I had originally, where it was like, oh, this guy's 2-3 and he's fighting a 2-0 guy. The 2-0 guy is supposed to win this, and it's a setup fight. And then they didn't look into it, because if they looked into it, they would say, oh, this Ashizawa guy's probably going to win this fight. So hopefully they give him to us at plus money, and we can get a nice solid bet on there. That's my thought. So sounds like we're on the same page, which is fantastic. Okay. Moving right along. This next fight. This one is confusing for me because it is a new fight. I found out about this one like this morning at like 5:30 or 6 o'clock this morning. So that's great. It changed, I think, a day or two ago, maybe a couple days ago, maybe a week ago. I don't know, but it wasn't on my original notes. So I totally had Noah Bay fighting somebody else. And now he's fighting this Tatsuya Saika. I'm going to go Saika. We're going to go call him Saika. I think that sounds right. But anyway, so I'll start this one off here. Now, let me get to my notes on this one. Yeah, here we go. Okay, all right, got it. So originally, I had Noah Bay fighting this guy that's now fighting later in the card. So I don't know how that works. They just kind of pulled him and said, you're going to fight somebody else. Cool. And I had Noah Bay losing to the original opponent, right? I didn't give him a whole lot of chance in that fight. Like, he had a puncher's chance. Don't get me wrong. But like, this fight is a different story. This fight is a whole lot closer. In fact, I even find myself kind of leaning to the Noah Bay side ever so slightly. But like, it's one that I could easily see going either way. This is not one I feel great about. The reason I ended up taking the Noah Bay side is, well, 2 reasons. One, there's a lot I like about his striking and like his ability to, he makes fights fun, but I like his striking, his ability to pull stuff out of his opponents. But also the fact that this is like really short notice for the opponent. So I ended up siding with Noah Bay, but this is a fight that, like, if I wasn't doing this show and then I saw that changed, I would have just said, screw it. I'm not going to look into that one. Past looking into it like briefly and saying, yeah, maybe not. So, because as the We Are RIZIN podcast is dropping down here, you guys are active in the chat. I love it. Dude hits hard, that Saika guy. That's something I've noticed about him. Like, dude hits like a truck. So he could absolutely win this, even on short notice. But I ended up going with the other side with as little conviction as possible. But what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, this is another fight where a general philosophy is kind of the guiding point to getting me to where I'm going. Like, Noah Bay, some things that I like about his resume, at the very least, he's won some sort of hardware in Rise. Like, he's done well as just a pure striker. But, just since June of 2024, wins on his resume include Johnny Case by unanimous decision, another one of those Americans that has come over and had some really, competitive performances in RIZIN. He's 2-0 in LFA. There's just a little bit, and to We Are RIZIN's point, the path to victory for Saika is knocking Noah Bay out, or at the very least, putting him on skates and, controlling the pace of the fight from there. I just do, especially like for Saika at 35, and that means like 33 in Japan terms, possibly. But Noah Bay, a little bit younger. I think that the parts of his MMA game are maybe coming together just a little, they're coming together gradually, while Saika is a little bit more of a finished product for where he's at right now, I think. I just trust the quality of Bay's recent resume just a tiny bit more. And it's not that I don't trust Pancrase, and and not that I take too much away from Saika for losing in Road to UFC and RIZIN, but like kind of what the limit has been for him for his entire pro career have been title fights in Pancrase. And when we've seen him in RIZIN, when we've seen him anywhere else, he hasn't been successful. And that does give me pause for this area of the world when I am following the people who make their way up from Pancrase and deep. And when you can't succeed anywhere else but the place that you called home for years and years, I do think it is a problem. So I am very slightly leaning Noah Bay as well on this one.
Let's go, dude. We've like lined up on all these so far, which is I did not expect that, considering the fact that I was going into this with no pretense as to what other people were looking at.
So I mean, what else are you supposed to think about a couple of these early fights? Like, there's only a couple conclusions to reach. And also, this was how our Wager Wars episode ended up going. Where
that's true, it did, didn't it?
Accidentally agreeing on pretty much everything.
That's funny. I will be interested to see if we agree on this next one. Okay, so we oh man, I'm gonna butcher these names. Okay. Tatsuyuki Shinotsuka is taking on Daichi Tomizawa. That's yeah, okay. I did my best there. Shinosuka is 0-1 versus Tomizawa 2-1. What are your thoughts on this fight? Because I'll be interested to see if we came to the same conclusion.
Let's say I'm loading up Tomizawa. So 2-1 as a pro, 28 years old. I think okay. So first off, a loss to Ersin Yamamoto, who was 4-7 at the time, not as bad as that record indicates. Yamamoto is, that's a competitive fight in RIZIN. So people will see that and say, he lost to a 4-7 guy. That's just, that number doesn't mean that much when you're talking about some of these people. And Ersin Yamamoto is one of those dudes. He was, had some very good moments in the recent RIZIN Grand Prix that came to an end. Man, I'm probably going to end up saying Shinotsuka here because it's kind of like the let where you lose to now he did lose in the first round to Hiroya Kondo, back on May 4th. That's a 10-13-1 RIZIN opponent. Again, that is a lot of experience in Japan, where a lot of those dudes are following pretty similar paths on the way up. And this is a lot of kickboxing experience. It's not necessarily all at the top level, but there's a lot of fights at Rise and K1. This is a guy that I don't think will continue losing if he fights in MMA. And so, this is another one where I think like the kickboxer who is currently navigating the learning curve is kind of the way to go here.
So, okay, I'm glad you said that. So I'm also picking an 0-1 MMA fighter to beat a guy that's 2-1, which sounds so dumb when I say it out loud.
You'd never do it. If it was a Cage Fury fight, you would never do it. And here it actually ends up being the case more often than not.
Yeah, and it's the kickboxing back. So these two did fight in kickboxing, as the We Are RIZIN podcast is. I'm just going to call them RIZIN podcast. That's a mouthful. As RIZIN podcast is shouting out, dude, it makes they did fight in kickboxing and he won. Now, here's the deal. He lost his first pro MMA fight via ground and pound. If he gets taken down, yeah, you take down a kickboxer, they're kind of, until they can figure that out. I've got a buddy that he's doing boxing now, but he was kickboxing for a while. But in his MMA fights, the dude, he's taking MMA fights and he looks like a world beater until somebody tries to grapple him. And then the dude just can't get up off his back like he's a dang turtle. Good friend of mine, great striker, can't get up off the ground. it's the same thing when you get these high level kickboxers as it is at the low level. If they don't know how to get up off their back, they get stuck there. And that's what happens. Yeah, I'm taking the 0-1 Shinosuka, I think it is, to get this one done. And I'm going to do that on the pretense that I don't think this is going to be a grappling fight. I think it's going to be a striking fight, and I think he can get the win. To Tyra Season's comment here, KO probably, I would imagine, but hard to say. You know, we don't have enough, to me anyway, in MMA, we don't have enough data on these two guys to really feel strongly about the method of victory. I would be surprised if the 0-1 MMA fighter who is a kickboxer came in there and got a submission. But outside of that, like, it could go decision, could be knockout, and I wouldn't be surprised either way. So to the RIZIN pod, they say, to me, I think Tomizawa has looked better in his recent MMA fights, even with the loss to Ersan. Tomizawa got put in a full rear naked choke in his last fight and escaped. See, but that's the thing. The full rear naked choke, I think, is kind of just like a moot point to me on this fight, because I don't see the kickboxer going out there and throwing on a rear naked choke. You know what I mean? So I think he's going to have to combat a guy who he's already lost to in kickboxing in a fight that he's probably going to get stuck striking with him. I think that's going to be a tough challenge, but I could be wrong. Like, I could absolutely be wrong here. And from the limited information we have, that's where I got to.
And maybe fighting Yamamoto, maybe that does something, you know, where he's like, hey, I don't have to submit this dude, but it turns out like maybe I can take him down and beat him up on the ground for a little bit, and that makes my battle on the feet a lot easier. For sure, can see that. These are two dudes that have very long kickboxing resume. They've had to, and this is going to be a common theme as it always is with RIZIN. And so, like, you know, these dudes are my age pretty much. And so just a couple months into doing another sport, you might be way better at it. You know, like, we could end up being very wrong about like all of these. That's the fun of RIZIN.
Especially on the early card. Like, when you get to the later fights on the card, yeah, but like these early ones, some of them are tough. Now, like this next one, we got a pretty good sample size, but there's still a lot of question marks. We have Joji Goto, is what I'm going to call that. Joji Goto taking on Jose Torres. And I know Jose Torres very well. I'm very familiar with him. But man, is he on a rough patch right now. Career record for Jose Torres is 13-5-1. You're like, that's a darn good record, right? Yes, but in his last 5 fights, he's 1-4, which is not good. But the caveat, he's been fighting some of the better guys that you can find anywhere in the world in the weight class, right? I mean, outside of the top 5 of the UFC, for example, but he's fighting some of the best fighters that you can find for him at this point in his career. And it's not like he's looking bad in these fights, but he's fighting a guy that's looked better recently at 3-2 in his last 5. Yeah, this is one where it's like, is Jose Torres at a point in his career where he's drastically regressing, and that's why the recent fights have looked the way they have? He's 1-4, or is it a product of he's found where his skill cap is, his skill ceiling, and he just happens to be fighting a little bit above his ceiling? It could be either of those two things. They could both be totally true, and I wouldn't be surprised by either one. But with that said, I do think that this level of competition, this Goto here, is a little bit lower level. Not like, I don't mean that in an insulting way, but he's like a slight step down from some of the guys that Torres has been fighting. And to their point, dude's a point, like, our dude's a beast, like, to their point. So he's good, right? But I don't know that he's on the level of some of the guys that Torres is losing to. You know what I mean? Like, Jose Torres is losing to some of the best guys in the world. Like, let's take a little gander at that, right? I mean, like, even clear back in the UFC, he lost to Alex Perez, which is no shame. But he's losing to guys that are like, got crazy, like 27-8. That dude's a beast, by the way. That dude that he lost to in the last one. 16-3 is another loss, 7-2, 6-2. Like, he's losing to guys that have darn good records. Like, he's not losing to guys that are tomato cans. And I'm not saying this guy's a tomato can. He's actually pretty good. And maybe I'm biased and I just want to pick Torres.
Back in 2019.
Yep.
Has a win over one Amir Albazi back in 2019. Torres's resume is actually wild to look at.
Yeah, and like, dude, if you're beating Albazi, like, I imagine you beat that again. You know what I mean? I'll take Torres, but this could be a pick where it's like I'm just familiar with him going in, and it makes me want to pick him. So I don't know. Like, unless they give me him as a giant underdog, I'm staying super far away from any betting lines on this one, because I do know that there could just be that little sliver of bias in there for me. But I'll take Torres. Do you have a similar opinion on this one?
Yeah. Here's the thing about Torres. It's not just like the losses over the last handful of fights. It's a little weirder than that, and it isn't as bad as I think that like the verbal saying of 4 of his last 5. It's not as bad as that, because 2 of those losses were to the same dude for the Brave CF title after he had beaten him originally by split decision. That's Nkosi and Bele. The Makoto Shinryu fight, that was a split decision. Then 2 straight unanimous decision losses, one to Diaz Irangaipov and Brave CF, but then to Hiromasa Ugikobo, who's fighting for the title on New Year's Eve. And the Ugikobo fight was a very competitive fight. It was a bloody fight. Like, both dudes ended up taking a good amount of damage. Ugikobo's a monster. He's as much of a muscle hamster as you see out of Japan, is Ugikobo. So that last fight with Jose Torres, Jose Torres' streak of 4 out of his last 5 is not as bad as that sentence sounds. And you beat Amir Albazi. The only, the loss before that stretch was Alex Perez after you beat Jared Brooks in the UFC. This guy's been in Titan, in Brave a lot. And Joji Goto has had reputable promotions that he's fought in as well. He's fought in one in Ryan and Shudo. He's landed twisters, of course. He's fought in all those places, and he's the dude that I just said. Of course, he's got a twister on his resume. But it's this split decision loss to Mando Gutierrez in Deep back in November of 2024 that I think is the best analogy to how I see this one going. I think Jose Torres is a dog. I think that a couple things go right for Jose Torres against Ugikobo. Who knows what situation he accidentally finds himself on New Year's Eve. So I like Jose Torres here, and I would say Jose Torres by decision. It could be split decision too. I don't know if you'll find that number anywhere, but it could easily happen.
Nice. Okay, so we still are lining up on all of these. This is good. This makes me feel much more confident about where I was going with these, because I had no clue how we were going to end up. Okay, we can move on to the next one. I feel very confident in this one, so I'll be interested to see if you do as well. We have Makoto Shinryu taking on Hiroya Kondo. Is that Kondo? Like Kondo, like a place that someone lives? Is that pronounced right? Either way, I don't know. You let me know what you think on this fight, and if I pronounce Kondo right.
Yeah, so this one to me, again, this is Japan, this is RIZIN. 11-14-1 does not mean that someone is a bum. That's not what it means. However, I am going Shinryu here. Kondo has fought the good guys out of RIZIN you'd expect him to have fought. Yuki Ito, Yusaka Nakamura, Hideo Chikoro, Yuki Matoya, Yuya Shibata. People, I'm not making this up. I'm going through his resume. I'm not making up any of those fighters at all. So Kondo's fought all the good competition you would expect him to have fought at this point, hanging around RIZIN as long as he has. The thing is, Shinryu, 25-1, and this guy has also fought so many of the reputable fighters at this weight class and in RIZIN and in Japan. The only loss, he's lost to Yuki Matoya by decision, Jose Torres by split decision, Ugikobo by unanimous decision, then Horiguchi by sub back in December of 2023. He's been active, wins over Yuki Ito and Ersin Yamamoto in the meantime. And the win over Ersin Yamamoto, remember, that is important. This is one where I do think the matchup doesn't make the most sense 100%, but it makes more sense than people will see optically. And this is one that I think is Shinryu's to lose.
Yeah, I feel very confident in Shinryu here. He should absolutely dominate. But here's the kicker, and this actually brings up great right into Tyra Season's comment. Kondo has lost 14 times, and he's only been finished twice. Once by KO, once by submission. That dude's tougher than an old leather boot. I don't imagine he's getting finished. As good as I think Shinryu is in this one, and how much I think he probably wins. If you told me I had to pick a method, I would say decision, because like that just seems to be what happens here. That dude is tough. So I'm gonna take Shinryu, and I'm pretty confident that he wins. Like I think he's like, you could, like, I don't know what the line's gonna be, but I feel like you could parlay this dude up. But like at the same time, I don't know that he gets a finish because the dude is tough. Like he's super, super tough. Let's see. What's the RIZIN pod saying? Hiroya is best friends with Mikuru Asakura, dude fighting in the main event. That's why he gets booked so much. Yeah, I mean that guy's super popular from my understanding because he's the other Asakura, the one in the UFC's brother. So that makes sense. Like they seem to be mega popular. So that makes sense if they're best friends. He gets him on the card. Dude's tough. I think that should get him on a card anyway. Like dude can take a punch better than most. Okay, we can move on to my next one. Oh, good. This is another one that I'm very confident in my read. We have, gosh, this is gonna be hard. Karshiaga Doubtbeck, we're gonna say. He's taking on Yuta Kubo. I think I got that one right. That sounds pretty legit. Man, like I Kubo's a good striker. I'm gonna say that. He's got good kickboxing. He's tricky little southpaw style. Picks his shots well, things like that. I think he's gonna get dominated here. This Doubtbeck guy, he can. I mean, if he stays on the feet and strikes, I mean, like it could be a chance where Kubo could totally catch him or something. But like, if the dude fights with any semblance of game plan whatsoever, he should dominate this fight. Like Doubtbeck, he should have a massive grappling advantage. He's not lost on the feet. In my notes, I have that he does at times seem to get suckered into striking, though. So that could be a problem. But outside of that, if he goes in there and like fights to a reasonable game plan, which the dude's 18-3, so clearly he knows how to fight to a game plan, he should absolutely win this fight. So I'm on Doubtbeck, and I feel pretty confident in it. I don't know what the lines are going to be, but if you parlay Shinryu and Doubtbeck together, I feel like that's a solid parlay. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I really like Doubtbeck. Like everything about his like professional resume just screams legitimacy. Like when you're just smashing dudes in Alash Pride and ACB, and then you work your way up here, things are going just about as good as they were before. This is one where I don't feel that nervous. Like so many other RIZIN ones will make me feel nervous. This is one where it's like Doubtbeck probably by TKO. I could see like just by ground and pound, like whether it's just a good position that he gets grappling or decision. I think that those are the two by far most likely routes of victory. But either way, Doubtbeck has all the tools to end up winning this. The only person that can stop him is him.
Absolutely. Yeah. It would have to be just poor game planning or silly mistakes. So I agree. Absolutely. Okay. So this next one is one that was added like very, very recently. Cause like this was one that I definitely did not know was a fight until like today, I think maybe yesterday, something like that. So that's interesting, but it is Kayoma Akimoto taking on Suguru Ni. I think it's Ni, like a kneecap, but spelled different. But anyway, so this fight, this Akimoto fellow, I believe, is taking this fight on like super duper short notice, from my understanding. I could be wrong. Maybe he had more of a notice than I think he did. But just based on when I saw the fight added and when everything seems to have come about, it's super short notice. But what are your thoughts on this one? And then I'll jump in and give you my prediction.
Yeah, like I think what should happen here is Akimoto wins inside the distance in one, multiple ways. That's what should happen. He's got 11 professional fights. What's he? Still a teenager? Is that Akimoto is like 19 years old, born in
He's like 18 or
2006.
19, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Seguro Ni, 19 and 14. This is dangerous. This is dangerous for Akimoto in this circumstances. Um, so, like, the single most likely ending I would see is probably Akimoto inside the distance. Ni is not a guy that has proven like impossible to finish. So certainly inside the distance for a teenage murderer is very possible. I don't know if you saw that that NII knee front kick knockout loss to the dude that's going to be fighting for the title on New Year's Eve as well. Jesus Christ, I'm surprised he has any front teeth left after that front kick. But so knee's not impossible to finish. So Akimoto inside the distance for a guy that's just going to be this juiced, jacked teenager at 10-1, coming in on short notice, full of adrenaline and piss and vinegar. Like, that's very possible. But me could totally catch him off guard at 10-1, coming in on short notice on New Year's Eve. These are the bright lights in Japan. So if ever there is a fight on a RIZIN card that you expect the savvy veteran to get one up on the young dude making his way up, this is one of them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And as the RIZIN pod is saying, it looks like he broke his nose last month in a fight. So, like, that's not good.
And remember teenagers, like how it'd be like, my ankle's broken, but like I'm still gonna go like and ride my bike today. Oh my god! Like there's the same people fighting at 19.
Yep. Yeah, it's like, yeah, who cares, right? Yeah. So okay. So for me, if this wasn't extremely short notice, I would also say Akimoto's probably going to absolutely crush this. Because it's short notice, it might be a stay away spot. Also, I have to say that like this knee fellow, every time I was like reading his name and looking at it, I just kept thinking of like the knights who say knee, and it's just been like in my head the whole time ever since. So if anybody gets that reference, like it's been there. Derek's asking what sportsbook have odds on these fights. So not sponsored, unfortunately. They like, or not unfortunately. Cloud Bet's better for most things, but Bet Online is going to have odds for them, I'm sure. I don't know what other sports books will, but it's kind of hard to find odds, and you won't get odds on these fights until like a day or two before the fights, probably. So yeah, as far as I know, Cloud Bet's not going to put odds for this fight. They don't usually have odds for RIZIN, but unfortunate. You can still use my link to sign up if you want to. It'd be great. But as far as like who has odds, I'm pretty sure Bet Online's they have odds for pretty much everything, including like scripted TV shows. So I mean, they'll probably have odds for it. But yeah, okay. So we're on the same page once again, which is great news for everybody in the chat. Like if we're just really on this, like we seem to be, we might have a full card parlay come up. You know what I mean? So
it had good results on Wager Wars. I'm pretty sure we both ended up positive that evening. So
yeah, so there you go. Maybe we're about to sweep this card. You know what I mean? Okay, let's see. I guess I'm kicking off this next one. This is one. What's up?
I don't know. We're on some sort of delay, but like it's after this next fight that things are going to get like really. It's after this next fight, the Fukuda fight, where things are going to get really fun on this one.
Oh yeah, I think this might be where we start to differentiate at some of these, but let's see if I can get this guy.
Have to.
We'd have to. If we don't, like something's wild. Like we didn't talk about these fights ahead of time, which is crazy. So Ryuya Fukuda takes on Tatsuya Ando. I'm pretty sure Ando I got right. So Ando is a guy that like I didn't realize I had taped before, but I had taped him before because of the Road to UFC fight. And like I realized I had taped him once I started watching his tape, and I was like, I've seen this fight before. And then I was like, oh, son of a gun. So yeah, so I know who Ando is. I knew who he was, but I didn't know I knew who he was. So there we go. Because that was a while back. I don't remember what year it was. It was first or like second season. I think we're on the third one now. So I don't know. It was one of the earlier, like one of the other seasons. But both guys 4-1 in their last 5 fights. So both guys on some momentum. Both guys have a pretty good skill set. I kind of went back and forth. I've actually, because like I put a little check mark by who the person I think is going to win. And I actually have multiple scribbled out check marks on both sides. So I've changed my mind a couple times. But I think I ultimately am going to go with Ando. And I don't have any real solid reasoning behind it other than I feel like just looking at the competition and the way he's in, like how it's stacked up, I like his resume a little bit better. And that's as good, like, because they both have, like, just watching them skill for skill, it's really hard to pick who I think is going to win this fight. So I ended up going with Ando because I think the competition and how he's looked against them gives me a little more, but not much. But what do you think?
Yeah, this is one of the few RIZIN fights that should ever be like pick'em. This is like, Ando has had that road to UFC experience. He's had a fight or two and won. Most of his professional resume has been accumulated in Shudo. I do respect, like, you have a win over Kevin Kroom back in Shudo in 2016.
Yep.
I am going to go Fukuda here very slightly, though.
Okay.
So finally on that, yeah, so Fukuda one isn't 35. He's 33. That's just a little bit better. Just a little bit more diversity in his professional resume that just gives me a little bit more confidence. Like his last 2 losses are to Naoki Inoue at Super RIZIN 4 for the RIZIN Bantamweight title by decision. A decision loss to one Diaz Yarengaibov, who we talked about a little earlier in Jose Torres's resume for fighting in Brave. That was for the NYZA FC title. That's another promotion that, for the most part, I will trust, unless it has that little exclamation point on Tapology for some of those NYZA fights. But he's got a win over Erson Yamamoto going back years, Yuto Uda. He's been in Deep. He's been in Shudo. He's been in NYZA. One of his professional losses is to Tatsuro Taira when he was defending his Shudo title a few years ago. So, like, especially considering the last 2 major titles outside of Deep, which he won and defended, outside, in RIZIN and NYZA, those 2 titles he lost to fighters that I know are good. They didn't finish him inside the distance. This is like a flip of the coin, but I'm gonna go heads and say Fukuda wins this.
So it's crazy that it's a flip of the coin, but when I look at the Tapology selections, it's like 76% are on Fukuda. And I actually just looked at that. I probably could have looked at that earlier. That would have messed me up even more. So I'm glad I didn't. But yeah, so I'm with the 24%, I guess, on Ando. So that probably doesn't bode well for me. But we'll see what happens here. Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, whatever the hell that means, like, for what everybody's voting, like, yeah, I mean, if Fukuda was minus 250, I'd probably go Ando, like I don't think it should be like that.
Yeah, this is a dog or pass fight, in my opinion. Whoever's the underdog is the value side, because I think it's extremely close. But maybe I'm way wrong, and maybe somebody's going to come out there and just run through the other one, but I don't think so. I think it's just going to be super, super competitive. But with that said, let's move on to the next one. You can kick this one off. We have what do we got here? Next one up is Kleber Koike taking on Vugar Karamov. This was one that I was already familiar with Kleber because he fought on those like Bellator versus RIZIN cards, so I knew who he was prior. But what are your thoughts on this one? And then on to the last, like with the last fight, the RIZIN pod says it's true pick'em as well. So that's at least we're on the same page there. But what are your thoughts on the Kleber versus Karamov fight?
My thoughts 138 is that this fight is awesome and that it's RIZIN as shit. Vugar Karamov is one of my favorite fighters that has been like purely RIZIN. That's a guy I've always wanted to see how he could fare in other promotions. Excuse me, that was stupid. So his only losses to Chihiro Suzuki, back in 2023 by TKO to Roberto de Souza by triangle choke. That's going to be a problem here. But otherwise, he's won 2 of his last 3. This is a guy that was briefly a RIZIN champion. Kleber Quicke, he is not young by any stretch. Whatever, this dude could keep doing what he does probably for another 8 years if he wanted to. It's like, I swear to God, watching some of these guys like Quicke, it's kind of like watching Royce Gracie in UFC 1. Like, it seems like something out of the era. It's a guy that has been able to beat Chihiro Suzuki by unanimous decision, Juan Archuleta with a heel hook, Yutaka Saito by Darce choke. He is on a 2-fight losing streak, but split decision to Mikuro Asakura, no shame in that at all. And a first-round TKO to... And the first-round TKO to Razabali Shaidulayev, which, as we'll talk about later, there's especially no shame in. And I'd expect it to happen to a lot of people when they step in there with him. Like, I want to say, especially at Quicke's age, and I do think that in his last couple of performances, it looks like he's lost a step. I think a lot of people would look like they lost a step against Shaidulayev because he makes you look that bad. I still have to say, like, Quicke by decision or submission has to be very... Look, Vugar Karamov is, and we are RIZIN, beats me to it, you bastard. Vugar Karamov, I think, like, part of the path to victory here is going to be getting takedowns and controlling. The problem is I don't think he's going to be able to stave off that submission from the bottom. And if Roberto de Souza can get the submission from you, can get the triangle choke from that position, I'm afraid of what Kleber Quicke would do. So my heart is going to be behind Vugar Karamov. I still want to see like what maybe that guy is, if that guy can rise to some different heights than he's been to before. But here, I just don't know if you're going to be able to sit in the guard of Quicke that long or let him work and do his thing, because I think Quicke will have so much time to work his game, and I think it'll be too much time for Karamov to ultimately survive.
Yeah, we're back on track because I agree that I think this is a clever side for me. The dude has 35 wins, 30 of them are submission. That's like
Jesus Christ.
That's unfreaking real. Like if this stays on the feet, I think it makes for a really odd matchup, like a really interesting one. So I don't really know what we would get there. But I think if this fight hits the mat, even off his back, Kleber is going to be the more dangerous. Maybe not more dangerous. He has the more fight-ending potential because I could definitely see him just throwing up a sub and getting something out of nowhere. Because the dude is, and like it's weird because it's like I'm going down time portal because I would never be like, if I'm watching a UFC card, for example, I'm never like, oh, this guy's got really good submission equity off his back. Usually I'm thinking, oh yeah, that works out great until somebody hammer fists you in the face. Like that, it's super rare somebody subs somebody from their like from guard. But dude does it. And I think he might be able to do it here.
I mean, can you imagine a guy going into a UFC fight right now and being like, well, here's what I'm going to do. He's going to come out and take me down. I'm going to try and choke him. I'd be like, dude, get the hell out of here. I give these 3 fights in the UFC before he's out of here. And here, like, and this isn't a knock on the quality of fighters in RIZIN. This is a compliment to the quality of fighters in RIZIN. There are fighters that fight very different style, and they might not be, maybe that style doesn't end up translating to the best parts of the UFC in 2025.
For sure.
But these dudes are very legit off of their back, and they're looking for submissions from there. They're not looking to ride out a round. They're looking to get up potentially because you don't want to catch a soccer kick to the face. But these dudes at the championship level of RIZIN are looking aggressively for submissions off of their back. So this is such a RIZIN fight. I love this. I love Karamov. I love Quicke. And to think that this one isn't even for a title. This is like, I swear, dude, RIZIN could end up doing some of the best BMF kind of fights that you could, and they basically do 8 of them per card.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of like what I've realized in some of these fights is just like, this is just a fun fight. And they didn't care about like anything other than we got to put a fun fight right here. So that's awesome. The next one we have if I'm not mistaken, the only women's fight on the card. Yeah, the only one. So we have Sika Izawa taking on Rina Kubota. I'm going to hope that that's correct. Yeah, interesting fight. We've got the undefeated 17-0 versus 15-5. So similar in as far as volume of experience, but one of them is undefeated. And that usually is like, okay, well, when is she going to get this first loss? And I wanted to, like, going into it, I was like, oh, this could be a real spot to fade the undefeated fighter. And I don't know that that's the case, actually, because I'm watching these fights, like, going into it, and I'm like, okay, how can I, like, what's the angle here? Yeah, I don't think that's the angle. I think this Izawa girl is going to be pretty gosh darn good. And as far as, like, continuing, I think she's going to win this fight. I think it's going to be a clear decision. I don't know if she's going to get a finish, but I think we get a very, very clear decision in this one for Izawa. I think it's just going. I think she probably wins every round. Like, I'd be surprised if she lost. So let's put it that way. Tyra Season, though, saying that Izawa is going to win with a submission, like in round 2. So that's interesting. And the RIZIN Pod says they hope Rina beats her. They might as well kill the division if Izawa wins. I don't really know, like, all the context there, so I'm not quite sure why that would be. But that's just for I'm not as deep into the weeds on RIZIN as much as I would like to be, with all the other cards. But as far as skill goes, I think she's got it. But what are your thoughts, man?
So a couple of points before I even get to who I think wins the fight. One, we are RIZIN. The thing is, man, we've all been there. You know, we've been there with GSP, Anderson Silva, Amanda Nunes, hoping that somebody comes. Oh, well, if you're going to be one of the fighters to beat Anderson Silva, you'd want to be Yushin Okami, who's strong and good in the clinic, making up reasons to think that somebody might actually lose their title. But the thing is, it comes around when it's supposed to, whenever that may be. And the other point here is to get on this, like, not too popular soapbox of all things. This is why we need more atomweight action across the planet when it comes to the women. Michelle Waterson, for all we know, got robbed of a 10-year championship career because there was no atomweight.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of the women's featherweight and atomweight divisions. I think that, some of these promotions that pull it off, I think and that's going to come along with education of the MMA fan base, and you just can't force that. You can't make them, see any earlier than they want to, that a fight between two 105-pound women or two 145-pound women should be interesting to them. But it's interesting to me. I love those weight classes, and I love seeing the different venues and the different places across the planet that they play out. With Izawa, she is so good. And really the only fight I've had with myself over the last few years with Izawa is trying to figure out whether it's going to be by decision or submission. Here, when it comes to Rina Kubota, she's a little bit bigger, maybe, like just a little bit. It's not like she was fighting a flyweight or anything just a couple years ago, but a little bit bigger. Got submitted by Claire Lopez. Again, that's a name that I associate with quality, is Claire Lopez and Siwoo Park. But every time it's been a jump up to a certain level of quality for Rina Kubota, it hasn't gone her way. And the same was against Lindsey Van Zandt back in Bellator in 2019. And the thing is, man, like, and I'm pretty confident in what I'm saying here, but if I'm wrong, I'm sure We Are RIZIN can tell me. But the thing is, when I see things like bare knuckle, kickboxing, Muay Thai, grappling on somebody's resume, on Tapology or wherever, I say, cool. That actually shows me that they have a skill set, or karate combat, another good example, just a little bit outside, that I think gives them some unique advantages in some places. All things aside, if I judge two fighters to be completely even, one's had a little bit of kickboxing experience or boxing experience, I probably am going with the one who's shown that they have a little bit of more of a specialty and ability to adapt to different circumstances. But when you've had this much shoot boxing experience, this is the problem here, is that I don't know if that does give me any sort of like, oh, but she's also done shoot boxing. I think that that's just experience that's just a little bit different than what you're going to be doing everywhere else. And I think that that's a lot of time that you spent not fighting MMA. I think if I have to say anything here, I'd say Ozawa actually wins by submission, and then I'd go by decision. I think those are the two most likely outcomes.
There you go. One thing I will say about Kubota, though, I do think she's 1-1 with Lindsey Van Zandt. I'm pretty sure they fought twice. So I mean, if it gives her any more credibility back, she did beat her once, I do believe.
Yeah, and RIZIN in they fought in June 2019 in Bellator. She had another fight in RIZIN against no 1-3 opponent, and then she beat Lindsey Van Zandt, having the towel thrown in by the corner just a few months later in 2019. What a sport.
There you go. It's exactly right. Just a few months later, she gets her to throw in the towel in the third. Dixon's asking for a parlay with her fights we don't have odds for. That's going to be tough, brother.
Oh, Jesus.
I did already tell you one fight or one set that you should put a parlay in. You missed it. You have to go back and watch again. But yeah, like, dude, I don't even like, for all I know, I could be telling you like, oh, these are great parlay pieces when it's like you get two of them that are minus 2,500 a piece and it's just a waste of time. So I don't know. I will tell you.
I think we'll be able to do a good parlay for all the title fights by the end of this. I think we'll be able to get a good 5-legger at the end of this for all the title fights.
I think we could probably, especially on everything we can agree, all the ones we agree on. I feel like you could just parlay them suckers up and probably feel good about it. But not like the whole card, but I mean like all the main card like fights that we agree on. I will say, Dixon, anybody on my Patreon is going to get access to all of the bets that I actually place for this. I'm not a fantastic bettor. I'm technically profitable, but only just, right? But if you are super just degenerate like yourself, maybe that's something you'd be interested in. You can check it out. The link's probably in the description of this. I assume I will put it up there. But it's like $9.99 a month. So there is that. But I will have some action on this card. I'm probably going to anyway. And then you could get those. Otherwise, I would say just parlay the people we pick in the main card fights here. We can move right along as I try to find where it is in my notes because they're all in different orders. We have Naoki Inoue taking on Danny Sabatello, and this one's your turn to kick it off. This is a really good fight. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and so I think that you're actually going to get a really good bargain on Danny Sabatello. I don't know what the odds are, but I think that whatever they are, I think that you're getting a value on Danny Sabatello because his 2-fight soiree into RIZIN, the first fight against Shinobu Ota, and he finished him in round 3. And good. That's a fight that was a fight that, like, you stick to one area, Danny, and you should be able to finish this fight in a certain way at a certain time in this fight. That's the thing about Ota. He's a solid opponent. He's a talented dude. He's strong. He's got, if memory serves, he's got some nasty looking ears. But like, if Danny Sabatello works himself on the feet against Ota, that was the path to victory. Same kind of with Shako Sato, where people actually started not booing Danny Sabatello. They don't boo in Japan, but I'm sure they were looking at him disapprovingly. Because that was a fight where Danny Sabatello kind of took a little bit off and kind of controlled that fight with a lot of takedowns, rode what was an easy victory. But what can you say about Danny Sabatello as a guy with fight IQ? He certainly takes the path of least resistance, wouldn't you say? In his time with RIZIN, only 2 people have beaten Danny Sabatello since December of 2019 when he was fighting for the Titan FC title. Those people's names are Ralphie and Stouts, both by decision, one by split. The other dude is Magomed Magomedov. So it's been a very high level of competition for Danny Sabatello. This dude brings stank and attitude to every place that he fights. Beef follows this dude. He knows how to market himself. He knows how to position himself for big things. And he's tailor-made to be an American that finds long-term success in Japan if he wants it. Anyway, very high quality for sure. This is going to be his 3rd defense of the belt. Last loss to One Archuleta and Hiromasa Uikobo by decision. I just think we haven't seen like it's hard to defend this belt this many times. You know, he's just coming off a Ryuya Fukuda fight earlier this year in July. He just defended it, won by split decision over Yuki Mitoya back in March of this year. That's a tough thing to keep doing, defending a belt and winning decisions like that. And anyways, good. He's not a champion that I think is great. And so I think this fight is very winnable for Danny Sabatello. I think that people haven't necessarily gotten a great sample size of him in RIZIN. But as far as is this in his wheelhouse to be able to win? Is this within the floor ceiling for Danny Sabatello of a win that he can get in his career? Absolutely. And this would be huge for him to win.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually on Danny Sabatello as well, but this was one that took me a little bit to get to. I kind of like I think I overthought into the fact because this is one that I did see the Tapology votes beforehand, and I was like, why is everybody so far down on Danny Sabatello? I'm like, what did I miss? I'm like, he's won his last couple of fights, and I was like, man, okay, so what am I looking here? Here you go. The RIZIN Pod thinks that Inoue mows him over. So yes, but like I think Danny Sabatello is going to be able to just like grind him out with his decisionating style. I think that's what he does. I could see him like he could lose. He could absolutely lose. Like they both have lost 4 times in their career, and that Dayron fight for Sabatello. I had Dayron there, and I was kind of bummed because that draw, I thought we could have got it. But I think this is a fight where Sabatello, if he fights this to a good game plan, doesn't try to get cute, which he usually doesn't, usually does not care. Man, I think he can do just enough, right? Here we go. Saying that top tier striking, but he has great grappling to fall back on. He might have great grappling, but I think he's going to get wet blanketed at times is the thing. So I'm going to go Sabatello, my goodness, to get this one done by decision, because that's typically how he wins his fights. And I think it's just going to be one of those things where he just does a little bit. He does just enough to edge out every round. And like, it won't look pretty. It won't be anything flashy. It's just going to be take this guy down and do what I need to do to not get finished and do nothing else. Do absolutely nothing else.
And I mean, it's going to be dependent on Sandy Sabatello there to it's going to be dependent on Danny to start off moving forward and keeping pressure, because when Danny is having his success anywhere, it's because he's moving forward, using his footwork, getting in distance, hitting with those good twos and whatnot. And you know, if he needs to shoot for a takedown, shoot for the damn takedown. And he's good at that too. The thing about Inoue is he uses his distance phenomenally. I love I swear to God, Inoue is like some like action figure with like bending points at different times. Like he's able to use his jab and get around people's long guards, like just from like taking a couple steps. So Inoue uses his length and his distance very well. Inoue is a guy that like kind of reminds me of Corey Sandhagen, honestly, like at bantamweight. His figure is freakish for that weight. It's not going to be an easy one. It's not going to be an easy one for either of them, though.
Yeah, well, hopefully they can make us feel better and give us Sabatello at really big underdog odds, and I don't have to feel so bad because, the Tapology votes are very skewed to the other side. So if he's a big underdog, I won't feel bad about taking him. But that's, you know, neither here nor there. We haven't gotten any odds yet, so all we can do is speculate. However, what we can do is talk about one of the fights that I'm actually most excited about on this entire card, and that is Hiromasa Aogi Kubo, and he's taking on Yuki Motoya, I think it is. And I believe I'm the one kicking this one off, which is great because I was looking into this fight, and dude, this Aogi Kubo guy, holy cow, I'm a fan.
What a career, dude. What a career. Going back 2 decades. What a career. From a dude whose first loss was Eduardo Dantas in 2010. What a career for Ugi Kobo.
I didn't even realize this was the same. Like, this was the same dude that was on Tough. Didn't even realize it.
Yeah. Uh, in a format of tough that I would love if they brought back, that champions of all the different world
Yeah.
promotions kind of format. I love that kind of thing when they do that.
Yeah, who even won that season? Wasn't it like it was gosh, it was somebody that didn't
Tim Elliott, wasn't it?
maybe. Yeah, I think it was Tim Elliott. That's right.
Wouldn't
It
it have
was Tim
had to have
Elliott.
been Tim Elliott because he ended up fighting Mighty Mouse?
Yep, that's right. It was Tim Elliott. Yeah. Because that was a wild season. Like I remember like watching that and it was like this dude has a win over Pantoja on that season, but that was a different Pantoja for sure. But like what in the world, Yeah, like this dude has fought everybody. Fought Horiguchi clear back in 2018. Did lose that one, but Horiguchi's the man. I mean, like this dude had quite the career. He's split win and loss with Kaya Sakura. Like he's fought everybody, and I am a huge fan of this dude. Like I didn't realize. Yeah, it was Tim Elliott. There we go. We got it confirmed. I thought it was. That's right. Because he had. Yep, that's right. Because he had to fight Mighty Mouse afterwards. But yeah, this Ogi Kubo guy. I don't know if I just became too much of a fan of him by like going back through his like fights past Tough, because I kind of just like after Tough never really kept up on him. Kind of forgot all about him, to be honest. Yeah, I'm a big fan now. I'm taking him to win. Might be a fan pick, but like I think he can do it. I think he can outwork the dude, and I think Montoya is good, and I think it's a competitive fight, but I think he's going to get outworked to a decision. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, dude, this is like what I love about Japanese MMA. What can you say about both of these guys? Wow, like good resumes, and what I love about Japanese fighters, well-rounded. Like these guys can do a little bit of everything. There's no area where they're like super uncomfortable, and they might not always be like the best wrestlers. They might not always be the most fluid strikers, but they never seem uncomfortable in too many places that they're in a fight. And with Uki Koba, I actually ended up like in the middle of the day, like a month or so ago, like coming out with this super romantic Twitter post about Uki Koba, where I was like, dude, take a look at this dude's career, where like the only people that have ever beaten him have been the best of the best at flyweight and bantamweight. Tim Elliott, Kyoji Horiguchi, Kaya Sakura, Sucho Kim, Kyoji Horiguchi again, and Juan Archuleta. And that last loss was over 2 years ago for a dude that's 38 years old. Who's he beating? Who's Uki Koba beating? You might be asking. Oh, just a dude by the name of Alexander Pantoja that before he broke his arm not too long ago, we thought was the most unbeatable 125-pounder in the world because he was. That's an amazingly, I mean, he went far in Tough. That wasn't the finale, but it was pretty damn close because he won 3 times on Tough, including over the EFC champion, Nakazi Mulo Zulu. And yeah, I love that format of Tough. Only the best fighters in the world have beaten this dude. And in RIZIN, between November of 2020 and December of 2021, getting work in consistently. In 2020, getting that many fights in, who is this dude? Beating Takizawa, Kashigai, Atsuka, Naoki Inoue, and Kaya Sakura by unanimous decision, all in a 5-round stretch. Then you go through, you have losses to Horiguchi and Juan Archuleta, both dudes that have been champions in very high-level promotions. Now this dude's on a 4-fight winning streak playing absolute bully ball against John Dodson, who I love to this day. Makoto Shinryu, who we've already said plenty of nice things about tonight. Jose Torres, the same goes, and Alibek Gadzamatov. He looked great in all those fights. He is strong. His shots are meaningful. They look like they hurt. When he gets you down on the ground, it's, he might be kind of looking for a submission. Technically he's won that way more than he's won by knockout. So he threatens with that, but he also never lets you forget that he's on top when he's on top. And he plays bully ball at the best of them. And Yuki Matoya, I think that he's a very well-rounded fighter. I think that this fight deserves to be closely handicapped, but I just think Uki Koba, I just have to get him a little bit of an edge in a lot of categories, especially when it comes to strength of resume. Why would I think that Uki Koba at 38 is like going to fall down some hill. He's showed no signs of that.
Yeah, I agree entirely. That's awesome. I'm so glad we agreed on that one because I was worried that I was picking that as a fan based on that. So that's great news. Okay, so this is, I referenced it earlier, right? This next fight, we have Roberto de Souza. He's taken on this Nazimov fellow who was supposed to fight earlier on the card. He was supposed to fight Noah Bay. That's right. Which he was going to dominate that fight. But now they moved him all the way up to the co-main event for the lightweight championship, which is kind of wild. Imagine you're like getting ready to fight on like one of the first couple fights on the card, and they're like, "Hey, dude, we changed it. You're now fighting for the title." Okay, cool. So that's that, and thankfully it is your turn to kick this one off because that's a wild thing to jump into. But who do you have in this one, and like what are kind of your thoughts overall on this matchup and how they changed it?
It's what I love about Japanese MMA going down in the Saitama Super Arena. The show must go on, and we will find someone to fight for this belt. So here's the thing about Nazimov. Like I referenced before, that front kick knockout of Seguro knee, folks, if you haven't seen it, go out and find it. It is disgusting the way he makes his teeth chatter like one of those wind-up toys in a joke shop, like in a cartoon or something. Just like I don't know how his teeth were not ground to a powder after that front kick knockout. It was disgusting. Here's the thing about Nazimov, though, man. Like, I could go back and I could try to poke holes in some of these pro wins and the opponent said it. But the thing, when you go then immediately to Eagle FC and to UAE Warriors and you finish two opponents with a combined record of 12-7, you finish them in the first and second round. I don't have, like, forget about everything you did before that. I now think that you are legitimate. So that's fine. Nazimov can be very frustrating to watch at times. I think that sometimes he's like, not that he's not all the way focused. It's just that maybe he's focused on doing the wrong things. I think that maybe he can be a little too patient sometimes in there. I just know that in these fights that I was watching against Jarsdea, sorry, Yamamoto, I just remember being like a little bit frustrated with him. Like, to go. Like what you were doing was working. In RIZIN, in any of these fights, man, when you're fighting guys that are 39 and 18, you don't want the fight to last longer. Like, that's where their advantages come out even more, the more experience that they have. I just know that, like, I get a little bit frustrated with him. Roberto de Souza, I think on kind of the flip side, 20-3, he's 36 years old, so he's definitely not young. Only one win by decision in his career, 19 wins inside the distance. And, you know, you go back to a fight like against AJ McKee, where he loses by unanimous decision. That's a guy that makes you proud that you supported him even when he's losing that fight, because AJ McKee is a legitimate, you know, top level guy in the world at that weight class, and he gave him a fantastic fight. Roberto de Souza is not always the cleanest looking on the feet, but I think that he makes it work. You know, he can be scrappy. He's a dog. I think that, like, the shots that he throws kind of from some weird floppy angles end up connecting and having some impact. And to be on a 5-fight winning streak, and the only two losses in that stretch being to Pitbull, AJ McKee, you've beaten Johnny Case, you've beaten Tafik Musayev, Yachi, you've beaten Spike Carlisle, Luis Gustavo, Vugar Karamov, one being key, Yoshinori Hori. A lot of inside the distance wins, and it's tough to know, like, with a guy like Nazimov at this stage in his career, like what ways he's most susceptible to losing. All three of his losses are inside the distance, and this is the biggest leap by far he's taken in his entire career as far as competition level. So I have to say de Souza inside the distance, but this is one, like, if Nazimov fixes some switches in his approach, maybe, like, this is certainly one that he can win. Like, if you can catch Roberto de Souza at 36 on the way down, this could be a massive opportunity that kind of, like, that just fell into your lap. That could be awesome. So he's got to figure some stuff out, and he's got to grow from his last few fights in RIZIN. He absolutely can pull this off. But as it stands right now, I still have to give de Souza that edge.
Yet again, we're on the same page, which is great news, because I was picking D'Souza here as well, and like he was able to keep it close in those fights that he ended up losing as well, against guys that I rate pretty highly, because like the Patricky Pitbull fight, that was before Patricky kind of fell apart. Patricky is not the same Patricky he was when these guys fought. Like Patricky now is he's taken a lot of damage in his life, right? So there's that. And he was never the better of the Pitbull brothers either. So there, you have that with it as well. But D'Souza, like, competitive with AJ McKee. I was very confident AJ McKee was going to beat him going in. I thought he was going to finish him. And I mean, he hung in there, right? He was competitive. So there's that. And then he goes on to win 5 fights in a row. So that's impressive. I think this is a tough ask to step into a title fight on however many days notice instead of fighting somebody on the early part of the card. I think that's tough. I think this is a big change as far as competition and opponent. I think D'Souza is an absolute animal. I think he can. I think, like you said, 19 of his 20 wins are finishes. I imagine if he wins, it's a finish, right? I mean, that's just kind of what this guy does. So yeah, I'll probably say submission. That's what he does most frequently. We'll take that. I think he can get a sub here. I think he can get it done. I think he defends, and yeah, I think it's pretty cut and dry there. But I mean, would I be surprised if he gets beat? Yeah, no, yeah, kind of actually. Yeah, I think D'Souza should win this pretty comfortably. The Tapology picks are let's see. No predictions have been made. Okay, it's because it just recently was updated, so that's why. But yeah,
it's like D'Souza can be a little relaxed in there because he is so experienced and because he is so successful, and like Nazimov could really capitalize off of that relaxation. If you snap one of those front kicks and hit him in the face, you land one of your big shots. That's a big deal. It can change the course of it, but like don't end up playing this MMA game with D'Souza. Like if you think you're going to go on top and things are going to go awesome for you, maybe they do, but D'Souza, how aggressive he is off of his back. And when not only is he snapping people into triangles and arm bars, but he's laying on ground and pound as he's sinking those submissions up. He's nasty on the ground. So Nazimov, huge opportunity. People take advantage of those. Like this is a big moment for him. I'm very interested to see how he responds to it against a guy like D'Souza.
Whoa, did we lose him? There he is. Okay, never mind. We're good. Yeah, I think D'Souza is. I mean, he's definitely got all the experience going into this fight that tells me he should be able to get it done. But like you said, opportunity. Sometimes that's how you get it. Let's see here. He's been put down bad before, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gets caught on the feet. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. Yeah, it's some sort of finish is what I would lean to with that. But we can go on to the main event. Also, guys in the chat, I appreciate all of you. If you are watching and you're having a good time, if you've enjoyed yourself, maybe you learned something, or if you're just feeling extra generous, there's this little thumbs up thing under the video. It's called a like button. For anybody that doesn't know what that is, if you hit it, it helps YouTube tell their algorithm that, hey, this is a video that people enjoy. Why don't we send this to more people? So if you'd be so kind as to hit that for us, that'd be just dandy. I do appreciate it. And let's talk about this main event. And I guess I'm kicking this one off, which is okay. I feel very confident in this one as well. I don't feel confident in my pronunciation of the name, but we're going to do our darndest. It's Razhabali Shaidulev. We're going to say that. Shaidulev. And he's taken on Mikuru Asakura. Yeah, I give very little chance for Asakura here. I think he's going to get run over like by a car. Like this is basically like, I mean, it's not quite like Crying Baby versus Hydrogen Bomb level bad, but it's like, I mean, I feel like this is like Asakura's good, but I just don't know that he's got a shot here outside of something like crazy happening. So give me the guy's name. I can't pronounce Shaidolev. I'll say round 1 or 2 KO maybe, or like ground and pound TKO is what I'm saying. Maybe submission. But I think he gets him out of there early round 2, late round 1. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so here's what I'll say. I'll talk about Asakura first so that I can say some nice things about him before I say why I think he loses. So Asakura, like, look, you're telling me you're a Japanese pro fighter with kickboxing experience and you have fought like in pro wrestling exhibition MMA fights. You fought Floyd Mayweather in an exhibition boxing match in RIZIN. RIZIN put that on. Plus 5 points for sure. You are a dude wearing that hat with a combined record of 8-0 in RIZIN and ACA with a win in UAE Warriors in between. Plus 50 points. I like Asakura deserves to be here. I don't think this is like, I wouldn't call it a lamb going to slaughter, anything like that. To stop Chihiro Suzuki and to beat Kleber Koike in any fashion is impressive. You deserve to be here for sure. I think that there's so many matchups they could do here in this division. But here's the thing about Shadulaev, man. This dude is disgusting at everything he's good at. It's so not undefeated. And in the promotions that when you're finishing people by ground and pound and triangle choke and ACA Young Eagles, you're nasty. And UAE Warriors, a 12-1-1 opponent, come over to RIZIN. And his fights against Takeda, Archuleta, Kubo, Koike, Kolesnik, they go the same way, dude. They start the fight. He grabs them from a part of their body that you're not supposed to be able to even grab people from. He tosses them down to the ground. And if he doesn't get a submission, his ground and pound is so nasty that the refs step in rather quickly. Like the refs have a short sand timer on a Shadulaev fight. His ground and pound is nasty. It is life-changingly damaging ground and pound. And, Asakura probably isn't even going to be the biggest test of his MMA career. Probably not. It might not be. It's not the top. It's not a top 3 test of the last 2-3 years in his career. You still have to be on your P's and Q's. But the only reason he would lose this fight is something upstairs that we can't see that otherwise shouldn't happen. If he's not focused, if he's going through a hard time in his personal life, if he's just super arrogant, those are the only things that could go wrong here. And I don't think that they will. He takes you by your shoulders, your collarbone. He'll grab you by by your third rib and he'll throw you down to the ground. And the ground and pound is just disgusting and unrelenting from there. So Shadulaev inside the distance, however that ends up happening, it happens in one of the first 2 rounds.
Yeah. I mean, in his last 3 fights combined are less than a round. And like, it's not. He's not fighting bums.
The best that this side of the world has to offer to him. He's disposing of easily. Juan Archuleta and Kleber Koike had nothing for him.
Yeah, Archuleta lasted 3 minutes, which is better than most of his opponents recently can say. Koike lasted 1 minute and 2 seconds.
Jesus Christ, dude. His punches from the top, just like you can hear him, every single one of them.
Yeah, like this is a guy that like if he gets over to the UFC, like people are going to be like, oh, I bet this guy's probably pretty good, undefeated, whatever. And then they're going to get those people that like they don't know and they're going to see him and they're going to go, oh, that guy's going to be champion. Because he's young. He was born in 2000.
If there is a next guy to go to the UFC to win a title from RIZIN, and by the way, folks, check the history of RIZIN, all right? They've got a great pedigree of sending people. And who knows, dude, I cannot believe it, but Starboy seriously could still do it. And especially now that Joshua Van is the champion, Starboy could still do it. And because I didn't think he'd beat Brandon Royval. I didn't necessarily think he'd beat Asul Mabayev with the weaknesses he had before. So Starboy could still become a UFC champion. The products that RIZIN has sent to the UFC, if there's a guy next that competes for UFC gold, it will be Shadulaev.
Yeah, Definitely. Like, this dude is so good. Like, I was like, when I saw it, I was like, okay, got a name, ends in a V, undefeated. I'm like, okay, he's probably pretty good. Probably takes guys down, controls them. I was like, oh no, this guy is mauling people. This guy is mauling.
They are maulings. The number one strategy for a fighter who is facing him is play dead. Same as a grizzly bear.
Yeah, it's like you're fighting a grizzly bear. Play dead and hope for the best. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
If Dixon, if you're still in the chat, if you're looking for someone to parlay up, this is your guy. I don't care what the odds are. He's probably like, unless it's like minus 10,000 at that point, you're like, I mean, I'm not going to lay 10 grand to win like $100, but or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, he's probably safe. He's probably safe.
I mean, if there's one thing I've learned from having some success with boxing parlays over this last year is never underestimate the value of a minus 5,000 favorite. Like, if you're doing a 10-leg boxing parlay, that's how I've had so much success on those this year is minus 5,000, minus 1,000. And then you just have to pick your closely handicapped fight correctly. And it's stacked to what, like plus 350 on a bunch of fights that are as close in combat sports to gimmies as anything gets.
Yeah. This one's essentially a gimme. And if you parlay this one up with the two that I said earlier that I felt super confident in, I think you got yourself your parlay. Outside of that, we had let's see, what did we agree on in the last 5 fights? We agreed on obviously this one. We both said D'Souza, we both said Ogi Kubo, we both said Sabatello, and we both said Izawa. So, and we both said Koike if you want to go that far down. But I feel like if you just go with that one parlay, it might hit. But that's also getting pretty deep.
Well, I think if you did a parlay of, and folks, like, this is not like awesome advice, but when you're talking about RIZIN, the thing is, dude, like, I can't tell you that my heart isn't behind a bunch of these picks. They very well might be. I'm talking about a New Year's Eve MMA card. Like, this is so much pure fandom that is like, that fuels the love of these kinds of events. But like Koike, Izawa, and then here are the rubs, Sabatello and Ugi Kobo. Those are going to be 2 tough ones, but like then D'Souza and Shadlayev, any combination of those, I think there's a decent chance of success for.
Absolutely. I agree entirely. And we've only disagreed on one pick on this whole 15-fight card. So if that tells you anything, that's crazy, dude. I don't know how we did it, especially because like I was going in with next to zero preconceived biases on this card because I was only mostly familiar with a couple of these guys. Sabatello I was super familiar with. Like I've seen all except for his last fight, because the fight before that, I saw that one because I saw he got a finish and I was like, what the heck? No way. And then I went back and watched that because dude doesn't finish anything. So, but yeah.
Well,
so
dog, You've been around the block enough to where like this is a learning curve you can navigate. Like when people start off picking RIZIN, they probably end up on the opposite side. Now, here's the thing, man. These things are always changing. We might be wrong on all of them. Like
it's true.
The waves of momentum are always shifting. But like these are things that take some people some time following a particular organization for that, like you're ready to do day one. You're able to look at an 0-1 dude with a kickboxing pedigree and be like, I'm pretty sure this dude should crush the other dude. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, dude, it's wild to think that, but yeah, like, and I don't usually bet on RIZIN. I bet on the RIZIN versus Bellator cards, but like, I might have to start doing it more because this might be my new Invicta, because Invicta was my thing for the longest time because the bookies were just flat out bad at it. And Invicta doesn't have a whole lot of cards anymore. So, and when they do, they're small cards, but like Invicta used to be my jam. Like, man, you could get like a plus 240 on a person that you're like, oh, this girl should win. No problem. So like, if the Tapology votes tell me anything about how these fights are going to be lined, we got some underdogs that are about to get some easy upsets. So I'm hoping we're right. And I'm hoping the bookies look at the Tapology votes and say, good enough. But yeah, with that, we've covered the whole card. why don't you give everybody some parting words and kind of tell them what you've got going on coming up, where they can watch all your stuff, and then like what you have like the rest of the year and like into early next year, because it's kind of wild west right now. So let them know all that stuff, and then I'll wrap it up.
All right, folks. So you can follow me on Twitter at Rotobrady. Follow the podcast, the Tap That MMA podcast, on YouTube and Spotify at Tap That MMA podcast. You can follow me on Instagram now at Rotobrady MMA. I write MMA DFS values picks articles for UFC events through rotoballer.com that come out the Fridays before UFC events. Most importantly here, I've been doing a lot more interlude episodes with guests. Apparently Instagram is way better for setting that shit up, dude. I'm so mad I wasn't on there years ago. So many fighters exclusively communicate through Instagram. So I just put out an interlude episode with UFC 14 veteran Tony Freakland, an absolute OG of the sport. I've got a few more. I do have an episode with Derek Campos planned for at a point in January. So starting to set more of those up. Look for those. Otherwise, folks, appreciate you being with us here tonight. Hope you have a great New Year's Eve.
I love the little festive New Year's thing. That's great. And for We Are RIZIN Pod, dude, I appreciate you being in the chat. Also, there's a chance that there might be some more stuff here. There's a chance we might have to do some collaborations in the future or something, because let's be honest, like I haven't covered RIZIN on my channel except for the Bellator vs. RIZIN cards, but who knows? Maybe this goes really well and we keep doing it. We'll see. Kind of just depends on time, considering there are a lot of UFC events and that takes a lot of time. Same with PFL events, and that takes a lot of time. But last thing I want to tell everybody is, you guys, first off, I appreciate you all. But if you want to see some stuff coming out from me in the next, whatever coming up before the UFC starts back up, before PFL starts back up, I've got a few things coming out soon. My wife and I are getting together with Mr. and Mrs. K-Pix from Johnny K-Pix's channel to do our recap of our championship predictions for the UFC for 2025. Spoiler alert, none of us did very good, but you're going to see who did the worst and who did the best. And then we're going to give you our new predictions for next year, for 2026. So next year, during the same show. So that'll be fun. That'll be coming up real early. I'm going to probably fill in a couple of interviews with some fighters here and there, sprinkle that in. If you are a channel member, my Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett breakdown of just that fight alone is already up for you guys. Everybody else will get it soonish, within a couple of weeks, probably. But yeah, so you can get some of that stuff, but I'll be sprinkling in some stuff exclusively for channel members, as well as some stuff for everybody in the very near future. But yeah, the live stream is coming up real soon. This is the one I was mostly looking forward to, because I do feel like this is different market than normal. So, but anyway, guys, I appreciate you all tuning in. And with that, I will catch you guys down the road. This has been a good stream. So take care, guys. Enjoy. Happy New Year. Happy holidays and all that stuff.